Neil Atkinson is an independent energy analyst. He joins us from Paris. Neil, good to have you. So we see some governments taking some measures now preemptively. We know that many are actively looking for other energy sources. But when you look at that, what do you think they should be doing versus what they are?
Well, they need to be doing both, taking measures to try and improve energy efficiency by reducing demand that some people might think is wasteful, such as excessive heating of public spaces and indeed private spaces for that matter, and indeed doing things like cutting back on unnecessary lighting, which your report talked about. The government should be doing measures of that nature. On the other side of the balance, of course, there is still going to be an enormous demand for electricity, and that is unavoidable. And they need to do everything they can to ensure that there are adequate gas stocks in place for the winter heating season. And of course, that implies competing for scarce supplies from the United States and other countries as they seek to replace lost Russian volumes. So it's both reducing demand where it's possible to do so, while on the other hand, finding alternative supplies.
How would you rate the level of preparation at this point of Europe?
Well, realistically, I think it's actually still pretty poor. You see surveys of people who are asked about they are going to cut consumption of electricity during the winter season. And they're asked that in August when the temperatures are over 30 degrees centigrade. I think when reality sets in, come the winter season, then there will be a change in behavior by consumers. There's no doubt about that. But if I was a policymaker in the European Commission and in the European member governments, every time I go home at night, I will be praying for the mildest possible winter, because that could well be the only way we avoid serious dislocation during the winter season.
Oh, you see the potential for prices to rise 80% or more, for example, in the UK. The world is just coming out of a pandemic with record fuel prices. Is there any way that this does not turn into recession?
Oh, I think it's almost impossible to see how recession can be avoided, because electricity is used by everybody every day in many applications, and there's only so much you can do to cut back. And quite frankly, we're already seeing examples of businesses either reducing production or shutting down facilities because energy costs are already too high. And I do not see, unless there is some extraordinary national and indeed European-wide effort to cut consumption, how very difficult circumstances can be avoided this winter.
Also, just to avoid widespread unrest, which could well be a consequence of this, governments are going to try to subsidize people's paying of their bills. But that in turn is going to deeply affect these economies that have other issues, right?
Of course, subsidizing energy bills, of course, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense politically because governments are being seen to do something. But more important than that, it is, of course, an action to protect the most vulnerable in societies. I mean, here in France, where I live, the government has already taken action to cap increases in energy prices during the winter season. It's capped at 4%. But of course, that comes at enormous cost. And there will be a bill to pay by somebody at some point. So governments will find different ways of trying to deal with this crisis, and we'll have to see how effective they are.
Neil Atkinson, good to talk to you.